This podcast is powered by Masterpiece Kingdom Brands. This episode is brought to you by serveyoucare.co.uk. In this episode, we are going to talk about a sweet recipe in building, or shall I say, baking a successful business. Joining us today is an incredible entrepreneur, an artist, and a pastry chef who was recently responsible for making the biggest cake in the Philippines. That's exciting. And all the way from my hometown and motherland, Cebu City, Philippines, please welcome to the show, Cheryl Go-Chan. Hi, Cheryl.
Hello, everyone. Hello from Cebu City, Philippines.
Maayong adlaw.
Maayong adlaw.
Maayong adlaw is good day.
Yes, good day.
Yes, Cheryl, oh my goodness. You just made it to the news recently with your masterpiece. I mean, this show is entitled Making a Masterpiece. So you literally just made a masterpiece of the biggest cake in the Philippines. Tell us how big is this cake and tell us what this project was all about.
So basically, this project was for a 7-year-old birthday. And we made a cake where the celebrant would go inside like this big cake. And then the celebrant and the family, basically the birthday family, ate from the walls while the rest of the guests just shared the cake as well.
So let me just clarify this. This is a cake that you can eat the whole cake.
Yes.
Oh, wow. I've seen some pictures and the videos. So I actually saw like the kid eating from the wall of the cake. That is so cool. So how big was this cake and how long did it take to make?
Actually, the cake was around 15 feet high because we had to also consider the height of the ballroom at the time. So we made sure that it wouldn't, go past the ceiling. So we had to make sure with the trusses, and we also had to coordinate with the decorator as well, just to make sure that the cake would stand properly. So the highest that we could do at that time was 15 feet high.
15 feet high. And the people were inside the cake. That is insane. Like, well done to doing that. Such incredible work. How many days did it take you to finish the cake?
Actually, we had a team of 14 people. So that included also the construction team, the baking team, the cake decorating team, the sugar flour work team, a total of 14 people. It took us 14 days to finish this cake.
14 days. Wow, that's amazing. And I'm sure...
But of course, the cake was baked a day before.
The cake was baked a day before, but the entire process took 14 days.
Yes, because we needed also the structuring, the decorations, and the rest of the fondant works were done in advance.
Wow. What was your personal highlight of this project? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things going on there, but what was your personal highlight after this project was done?
Well, basically for me, I just took on the opportunity as a chance to showcase our talent also because, Cebu is considered one of the provinces in the Philippines, and most of the very good cake makers are, from Manila, which is the capital. And I felt like this was an opportunity also to showcase that even people from Cebu are very talented and that we can also, show the Philippines or show the world that there are very talented people in our beautiful island of Cebu and that we can also do something, incredible given the opportunity to.
Wow, I love that. Speaking of talent, Cebuano talent is really world class, hey? And thank you for representing that. That's really, really cool. Okay, well, Cheryl, I've known you for some time and you have built, or I would say baked, you have built or baked this chocolate leaf patisserie business for the last 14 years. So can you just tell us quickly how this journey started, and was this really the career you've always wanted ever since you were young?
Actually, when I was in high school, or I already knew I wanted to cook or bake or anything that involved the kitchen. Like I really enjoy my time there. I feel like it's something that I can relax in and just enjoy the whole process of it all. So at that time I told my parents I wanted to take up HRM, but then they didn't allow me because at that time, baking wasn't really a big thing. It wasn't a business per se. I mean, they thought, who would order cakes from you if that's the case? And cake decorating wasn't a thing at that time when I started. So I guess I felt like it was really the Lord leading me, because throughout the whole process, I actually asked permission from my dad, and he gave me some conditions before he allowed me to take up culinary or pastry classes. And it was so surprising that everything just fell into place. And so that's why how I felt that perhaps it was really the Lord's hand guiding me, and that this is the path that He has prepared for me.
So you're saying that it started with a desire because you just felt really at home and relaxing, and then everything sort of like fell into place.
Yes, that's true. That's correct.
Oh, wow. And then when you're 14 years down the line and you've just created an amazing cake, and I'm sure it didn't happen overnight. What was the very first project? I mean, what was the very first cake even that you baked and then made you realize that, okay, this is really something that's worth pursuing?
Well, before doing this business, I was actually a pastry chef also in one of the hotels here in Cebu. So we would do, brownies, chocolate cake, the classic desserts that you would see in a, hotel setting, a hotel display of desserts. And then at that time, I thought, I think I can memorize my chocolate cake, my brownies. And, we do that over and over again every day. And I thought, I think I want something new, something refreshing, and something different. And so I thought to myself, maybe I can try my hand at cake decorating as well. But at that time, it wasn't a thing yet. And people wouldn't understand, like, why would I have to pay this much money for a decorative cake that I'm just going to destroy anyway and eat?
So sorry, Cheryl. Just a clarification, just so that our listeners and our viewers know, what is the difference between a normal cake and a decorative cake? It sounds like, for normal people, it sounds like just the same thing, but you're telling us that there's a difference. Can you just describe it, please?
So the difference of what we call, a regular cake or a specialty cake is, we just bake a chocolate cake, put a filling, ice it with, chocolate ganache, and it's just like a normal cake that you basically eat. But what we actually do is a decorative cake, which means we can customize each cake with the design accordingly, so that, we can cater to different events, like, for example, weddings, and we can cater to birthday parties, we can cater to Chinese engagement events or bridal shower parties, or, any occasion that we can really customize according to their theme.
Okay, so you were saying you wanted something different, you wanted something new, and a decorative cake wasn't a thing back then. So how did that happen?
So, of course, all of us celebrate occasions, right? And there's always a cake for every occasion. At that time, my mom, how I did my first cake was actually my mom offering to gift a cake to one of her friends. And then she said, oh, my daughter can bake a cake. She's a pastry chef. And so she'll make you a nice, beautiful 2-tier cake. And so I said, okay, I'll take on this challenge, without knowing that a decorative cake and cake stacking is totally different from just baking one layer of sheet cake. So at that time, what happened was my cake just, slowly melted and slowly, fell to the side. And so I thought, wait a minute, I really have to cover this cake because this was for a special occasion. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a 70th birthday or 80th birthday, but I remember it was definitely a milestone birthday. And that's why they needed a tiered cake at that time.
They needed a good looking cake.
Yes, they needed a good looking cake to place on stage because it was a big event. But then I was like, oh no, this cake is falling apart because I don't know how to decorate cakes. So, I got a lot of chocolate leaves at that time, which is one of really the pastry or decoration in the pastry, and put the chocolate leaves all over. So it was like a mound of chocolate leaves. And, all the guests were like, oh, it's so pretty. But then They didn't know the history of that. And that's how I started my baking career as a cake creator.
So it's actually safe to say that it was a mess to begin with,
Oh,
and then it
yes,
just became
definitely
a
a mess.
masterpiece.
Yes, definitely a mess. All of us go through that. I mean, nobody reaches their highest potential without going through something first. So that's how we started. It's actually a very funny story that I really love sharing, just to let everybody know that, when things don't go well or things don't go right, just press forward, because ultimately something beautiful is bound to happen.
Wow, amazing, amazing, Cheryl. And then I'm sure when you were already starting, it's also new to you going to cake decoration and in this kind of business. Even if you're so passionate about it back then, I'm sure there were always those, let's just say, like existing brands or businesses who were already sort of like maybe not doing exactly what you did, but who were already in the business. Were you not discouraged at all or maybe intimidated when you were starting? I mean, 14 years is a milestone. And I'm sure a lot of businesses don't even make it into the year 5 mark, and there is something, I think it's a normal thing in marketing that we sort of like study competition. And sometimes the danger there is really chasing what competition is doing. But you definitely chose a path that's unique and I wouldn't say the easiest path. So what was the challenge and how did you sort of like overcome that challenge?
Honestly, I think I went into cake decorating not for the money, not to earn money. Basically, I went into cake decorating just because I simply loved it. And I looked at my competitions not as a competition, but somehow as an inspiration instead. I think when I see their works, I would say, oh, maybe one day I can be like them. Maybe one day I can achieve doing something like this as well. So when I started out, there was no pressure. I was happy. It was more of like a hobby to begin with, to be honest. So I didn't really see the pressure or the competition in the people. They were actually my inspirations.
Wow, that's something I think very different because a lot of young business people really think that, they're obsessed with studying the competition and looking at their neighbor's
Sort of like,
Yes.
lawn, right? And then they try to copy and follow. But yes, that's very good because you were just really enjoying what you did. When did you know that you were starting to get profitable or, like when did you know you were doing the right thing already?
Actually, I can remember because I think when I started, I was still single. And so I was still under my parents' roof. And at that time, that's why I didn't have any pressure on me because it was like a hobby for me mostly. I think at the time when I got married or was about to get married was the time when I seriously considered that can this actually support me and my family if ever like I get married and move out and be independent. And so I think that was the time when I actually started feeling pressured to
oh,
really achieve because this was going to be my bread and butter. And can it sustain me? Can it support me? I mean, those were the questions also running through my head. And there was nothing else I knew how to do. Like this was what I was doing. And I think that was the time when I started, looking at what you mentioned before, like really seriously looking at competitions. Like, can I do something as well as them? Or can I please my clients? Will they be happy with my work? So these are the questions that, started coming into my mind because I was, thinking of doing this seriously because I had to support a family if ever I was going to be doing this.
Wow. And how did you like get over that season? I mean, of course, that's obviously helpful, but the pressure, how did you handle the pressure? And were you still okay pursuing it? Or was there even a time you wanted to give up? Like, okay, it's too much now. I feel like it's not fun anymore. Okay, let's just pack it up and, do something else.
Yes, honestly, even in the creative sense of things, when you're doing something that you love, like it's fun, right? It's a hobby. But then when the pressure of earning money, supporting a family, and pleasing clients, I think pleasing clients is the hardest thing to do because I am in the creative side. what might be very nice to me might not be very nice to my client, or the right color for me might be too dark for my client. Or let's say, this figurine, I feel like it's nice for the cake, but then to their eyes, they feel like, no, it's too small. You should have made it bigger. So these pressures coming in, and clients, making comments. And although I do acknowledge that their comments made us improve, but somehow, because cakes are very personalized and they're very personal to us, and every cake that comes out of our kitchen is really from the heart, I actually personally get really affected when they're not happy with their cake, because I know I poured my heart and soul into each piece.
Okay. Wow. That's a different level of commitment. Hey. So, wow. So this obviously made you improve every single time. Like all this discouragement, all this criticism, and that's how you grew your business.
Yes. I realized along the way that every criticism, every feedback that a client gives you is actually not to put you down, but I would personally take it as a chance for me to improve and be better.
Wow, that's amazing. So that is really, 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 really good. Cheryl, I know you're a faith person, and in Masterpiece, we always say that the strategy is scripture. And your journey has proven that in all this discouragement, in all the little things that you needed to discover to grow it, there must be a special force or a driving force. So do you have any particular scripture that guides your life, your business, and everything that you do?
Yes, I do. It's found in Proverbs 16:9, and it says, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps."
Wow. Can you expound further a bit on that? And why is that your favorite verse?
It's my favorite verse because I'm actually a very choleric person. So if you know the personality test, a choleric person is very A personality, somebody who likes to plan out things. And if things don't go their way, we are very quick to be discouraged, or it affects us a lot. And I feel like, sometimes you just want to be in control of your life. You want to be in control of the direction where you're going to go. But then I realized along the way that even though you plan things and it's not really for you, it's not God's will for your life, it won't happen.
Wow.
And and you just have to trust God's process for you, God's nurturing, and God's leading in your life. And so that's how I feel like that's what got me to this point today. I did not expect to be, running this long. And I'm really thankful for the support of my Cebuano community and for people who are ordering from us. But apparently, I did not expect to reach this point in my life.
Wow, that is very inspiring. And I 100% agree to that. And as we're about to conclude this episode, I just wanted to ask you, given what you have been through and where you are right now, and the amazing vision behind the chocolate leaf, and all the amazing work that you're going to produce in the future, what do you think is your sweet recipe for success?
I think my recipe for success is really to trust in God's plan for you, because we can just plan out things and aim for things, but business is business, and you're not sure that it will click, or it will, be supported by people, or people will accept what you have to offer. And all you can do is really just trust and pray really hard that this is the path that the Lord has planned for you.
Wow, amazing. Amazing. Whew. That was so cool. And Cheryl, how can our listeners and viewers reach you? How can they order, just in case somebody wants to order another big cake on their country? How can they get hold of you?
They need to order gifts for their friends here in Cebu.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So they can reach us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/The Chocolate Leaf. And they can also find us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is The Chocolate Leaf as well.
Okay, that's amazing. Well, there you have it, guys. A very, very sweet recipe for building a successful business. And the main ingredient is really trusting the Lord and being excellent in what we do. Thank you so much, Cheryl. I appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. This episode was brought to you by serveucare.co.uk.